Hi everyone. It is December 9, 2021. Hello, Cecilia Amarati and Andrew and Patricia White and Air Supremacy. So now I know Donna Davidson, Andrew, and let's go up to the top. Linty London, hello. Geo Factor 3, Analog Synth Player, Rage Against the Machine, Mike Luft. If you hear children screaming in the background, that might go on for a while, so I apologize. Blues du jour, Autumn Minnick, Barb in Ohio, Taylor Noose, hi Taylor Noose. And I think I said hello to everybody. I think Awakened Sleeper. Hello, Awakened Sleeper and Amber Eyes. Lady J. Homestead. Hi. Hi. Super Painting 62. We got tornadoes. We got tornadoes happening. I have posted a live showing you how quiet it has been, making me concerned. But those supercells came about this afternoon. I took a capture of the straight line supercells right here. Wow, look at that. How they just magically form in one line, a thin line. Sorry, I don't know what I was doing with that, my cursor, but just watching it all and not realizing I was circling around. So, yeah, and I looked at that and I thought, oh no, severe weather people are experiencing as I was looking at this radar, and sure enough, severe weather was experienced. Look at the magical creation of supercells, tiny little supercells in Louisiana, and then they blow up in Mississippi. And of course, more rain for you guys in Washington. I'm sure those who have been flooded out are really happy about that, huh? Not at all. And radar current time right now, 5:06 p.m. Am I Western time? Am I Mountain time? What time is Arizona? I don't even know. But here it is, and still blowing up in. It's just an elongated line of supercells that, yes, as far as I'm concerned, that is nanotechnology, and you are looking at the activation of nanobots that have already brought about destruction. Destruction. You cannot tell me that this is a natural weather front created by Mother Nature on climate change? No. Not when it gets that defined. Because Mother Nature does not work in straight-lined patterns or right angles. All of what we see. And look at these supercells down here in Texas and central and northeastern Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. You got tornado watches throughout the night. So, what destruction did actually take place? Well, let's see. Nope, wrong one. This one. And let's get this set up, Carol. Okay. So, Clarksville, Tennessee.
I can't even get through right here. There's a house gone right here. Power lines are down. This guy's stuck in the power line. I can't even get through right here. There's a house gone right here.
Yeah. House gone right here. Clarksville, Tennessee. This is Live Storms Media, which I cannot play. I will put the link in the chat and you can play it yourself, but I'm going to just show you some pictures off of that video. Right here. Well, that roof is gone for sure. And you got some car damage. Whole lot of roofs. Sides of houses. Wow. Well, I'm afraid there's going to be more tornadoes tonight. Look at that. Well, people don't want the truth. They don't want to know that we are at war. They're using weather modification. They're using weather as a weapon. And these are the results. Oh, man. Yes, little one. Yes, little one. You can come up. Come on. Okay. Wow. Well. Where is this? Clarksville, Tennessee. Well, I have a video of that shows how magnificently big it was, but Nashville, Tennessee, this just came in from raw alerts, confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado is on the ground. Currently, tornado sirens are sounding off.
Our tornado signs are going off.
Okay, Sherry has not been feeling well, so send good wishes to Sherry. And here, I was listening to Ryan Hall, and what I heard was Clarksville dodged a bullet. Ryan, what's happening with you? It didn't dodge a bullet at all. This is the tornado. Look how huge this is. They would go in a line. Mother Nature's tornadoes, very narrow, very small, hit ground, go in a line for a few minutes, and then peter out. Not anymore. Not when man is causing this. Not when man is causing this. We do have another moderator that has agreed to moderate when she's here, and that is Cynthia Johnston. Call out, shout out, applause. Thank you, Cynthia, very much. Yeah, get well soon, Sherry. From Taylor News. And take care, Sherry. You are missed, from Barb in Ohio. All right, little one. This is why I put your cat blanket, so you can knead on the blanket, not on my clothing. Sending well wishes to Sherry from Awakened Sleeper. Get well soon, Taylor News. Oh, it doesn't matter anymore, Jay. And I know that you know that, but spring weather, fall weather, winter weather, nothing. Nothing makes sense. If they want to bring it about, they bring it about. And they bring about all of the destruction with it. Here, Clarksville sees severe tornado damage Saturday afternoon. Storm shelter open at Northeast High School. This is Zaxby's. Clarksville School of Fine Arts. Homes. Damage, damage, damage. Yeah, that doesn't look like it's dodged a bullet at all. And Tennessee, cam captured. Their cam captures tornado, large fireball knocking out power. Well, that sure did bring about power outages to an awful lot of people. That hit several power stations. Taken from I-65 and Vietnam Vets Boulevard. Severe storms and tornadoes have been sweeping through the mid-state and southern Kentucky. Oh, so where you see this line, Tennessee, going into central Tennessee, supercells in Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. And what is this? It does look like an activation of some sort. Will they grow? Will they develop different colors? If I remember to return to this, we'll check it out later. So, woman who threw Chipotle bowl at worker sentenced to 2 months in fast food job. That's a sentence I've never heard of. You hear of community service, but you don't hear of you are sentenced to 2 months of working in a fast food restaurant. But I think it's actually kind of cool. So, Judge Timothy Gilligan, Parma, Ohio, gave Rosemary Hain a choice of a 90-day jail sentence or a 30-day sentence on top of 60 days working in a fast food job. Do you want to walk in her shoes for 2 months and learn how people should treat people, or do you want to do your jail time? That was his question to her, and she said, I'd like to walk in her shoes. I don't see her, this is the judge saying, I don't see her as any greater risk than anyone who walks in off the street. I looked at it as someone who lost her cool. Well, that's certainly reflective of our times, don't you think? Yeah. She's no greater risk than anyone else. Throwing a bowl of food at a fast food worker. Well, good luck. Good luck finding a job. And yes, U.S. joins over 60 other nations to pledge emissions reduction from air conditioners and refrigerators, and none of these people like John Kerry are going to adhere to the policies they impose upon all of us. Now they claim it's global warming. It's heating up. We're getting the hottest years on record. But you better make sure that your air conditioning is real low. And you gotta buy new air conditioners, refrigerators. You get those costly appliances that are compliant. It's all based on a lie. But don't do the research. Don't put in any effort. Just keep believing all of the lies that you hear. Alright, I'm going to post the link to this Rumble channel that has apparently just started. And they're going to be posting all of the videos that are coming out on January 6th. And some of these videos are pretty telling of a staged, orchestrated insurrection. So they've already uploaded quite a lot. So anybody who's into January 6th, that event, click on the link and either follow or bookmark. Beyond shocking, ACLU will represent NRA in free speech in the Supreme Court case. Our free speech is dying, and it hurts. It hurts. It hurts because as an American who really enjoyed free speech, and now, you know, every time I'm posting on YouTube, I have in the back of my mind, oops, you know, you better watch what you say. You can't, well, I can't post everything that I want to and speak my mind on certain subjects. And eventually it's going to be hit with all subjects. Climate change. All of us who have been posting on climate change and have videos on our channel, it'll be like the pandemic. Suddenly, channels start going. X'd. Terminated. And I know that day is coming for sure. So, ACLU will represent NRA, defending Americans against First Amendment violations by an overreaching federal government. The ACLU is not a fan of the NRA, but good that it's taking this position. We're representing the NRA at the Supreme Court in their case against New York's Department of Financial Services for abusing its regulatory power to violate the NRA's First Amendment right. The government can't blacklist an advocacy group because of its viewpoint. Oh, they can't. Right. But they do it all the time. They can't punish organizations because they disapprove of their views. And it would be wonderful to hear Americans shouting out loud about what is taking place. We are starting to find out what is beneath the thin veneer of civilization that we have all been taking for granted. Ah, civilization. Wasn't it Gandhi who was asked what he thought of Western civilization? And his response was, I think it's a good idea. Maybe you should manifest civilization, because we are so not civilized. And boy, are we becoming less and less not civilized. Have you noticed? Unlike so many people around the world, those of us that live in the United States were fortunate enough to grow up in a relatively civilized society. Unfortunately, we have turned our backs on the values that our forefathers handed down to us, and so now we are starting to find out what is beneath the thin veneer of civilization that we have all been taking for granted all these years. Our society is absolutely teeming with predators. Crime rates are soaring all over the nation. Millions of Americans are afraid to leave their homes, and hordes of drug addicts are literally pooping in the middle of our streets whenever they feel like it. In some of our largest cities, highly organized groups of criminals are constantly invading homes. I don't think I need to read this, but I'll just read a few points in this article. Once upon a time, Los Angeles was such a beautiful city, but now it is covered from one end to the other in filth, trash, drug paraphernalia. So imagine going to work and this is what you see outside your store. Worst drug crisis in the entire history of our country, smashing into vehicles, robbing homes. That's happening all over. Bellevue, Washington, so many vehicles have been stolen that the police are literally giving away steering wheel locks in a desperate attempt to bring auto theft down. Do not understand why people still want to live in these big cities. Well, an awful lot of people don't have the resources to move. 40% of Americans are now afraid to walk alone at night near their home. And yeah, this is our country now. We live in a country where hordes, well, he's going on with the drug addicts pulling down their pants, defecating in the streets. And thanks to the open border policies of our leaders in Washington, more drug dealers, more drug addicts are pouring across our borders with each passing day. It is reported that the foreign-born population in the U.S. has now reached a whopping 49.5%. I mean million, I'm sorry, 49.5 million. And we do not have that population that is often recited, which is, 3,300. 330 million. We don't have that. I think we're under 300 million, and that is due to having done a lot of research on electromagnetic frequencies that are causing infertility. The fertility crisis that the United Nations has been sounding the alarm for about 15 years, and it's not gotten better. And other products that cause infertility, and the amount of people who are dying. Okay, so we have less than they're telling us. But we have to believe that we've got a population crisis. We have to get rid of people while they're doing it. So 49.5 million foreign born. And a whole lot of them are illegal migrants. And this is interesting. So apparently there was a Republican debate. Vivek Ramaswamy was talking about the replacement theory during the debate that caused an awful lot of hoopla. Van Jones came out after that debate claiming that Vivek was sounding, he was just a step away from sounding like a Nazi due to him claiming, that there is a replacement going on with the American people. Okay, do they forget what they've said years ago on other broadcasts? This is Van Jones. So yesterday, Van Jones, this is Vivek Ramaswamy's Twitter. Yesterday, Van Jones called me a demagogue for discussing the Great Replacement Theory. So here are Van's words in 2021.
Majority to do something is difficult. Asking the white majority to do something is difficult. And I think it'd be easier if we just acknowledge that it's difficult. No ethnic majority group in 10,000 years of human history that I could find ever went from being a majority to being a minority and liked it. And that's basically the request from the racial justice left, is that we want the white majority to go from being a majority to being a minority and like it. That's a tough request. And the reality is that change is hard. Change that you want is hard. Change that is good is hard. Asking the white majority to do something is difficult.
The request from the racial justice left. We want the white majority to go from being a majority to being a minority and like it. That's a tough request. And change is hard. You gotta like it, too. So, New York Times just recently posted this. What's going on in this graph? Population diversity shift. How has the diversity of the population of the United States shifted from 2010 to 2020? The blue arrows are people of color. There's an increase in people of color in all of these states, the blue arrows. The red, there is a white population increase. Very few red, but a whole lot of blue. Wow. So, we do have a change in demographics, if you've not noticed, and so does London.
سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر
This must be at a pro-Palestine protest. I do see some Palestinian scarves and Palestinian flag wear. But, yeah, there is a big change in demographics, and it's purposeful. So Egypt warns Israel ties could rupture if masses of refugees pushed into Sinai. It hasn't ruptured already? You're just saying that it's going to rupture if a whole lot of Palestinians are pushed in to Sinai as refugees, but it's not going to rupture if they're killed off in Gaza? Wow. I don't like that headline. The most dystopian version of war is peace you've ever heard. The U.S. sent Israel 10,000 tons of military gear in 2 months, used to kill approximately 20,000 Palestinians.
About the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Name me one more nation, any other nation, that's doing as much as the United States to alleviate the pain and suffering of the people of Gaza. You can't. You just can't. The United States, through President Biden, is leading the effort to get trucks, food, water, medicine, and fuel into the people of Gaza. Wait. Name another nation that's doing more than the United States to get hostages out or to get people, foreign nationals, out of Gaza. You can't do it. And name another nation that is doing more to urge our Israeli counterparts, to be as cautious and deliberate as they can be in the prosecution of their military operations. You can't. The United States is at the forefront of this. Now, about the humanitarian situation in Gaza.
Wow. These psychopaths, these narcissists, sure do know how to drive home the lies, right? I don't know if you've noticed on my channel where something's on the top of this motorhome that I'm living in. But, yes, Security Council resolution for immediate ceasefire, and this just took place yesterday. Listen to this. No other nation is doing more. It is, we're bringing in aid, we're bringing in food, see the trucks? If you've watched a lot of these videos, there's very few trucks getting in. But why? Because they're just dropping more and more bombs, killing people. Sick, I'm sorry, excuse my French, sick motherfucker. And people actually listen to him and probably even give him some respect, which is really remarkable.
En contra.
Against.
En contra.
Against.
Alright, it's hard, and this audio issue is bad. I can't control it. This is YouTube. But he's asking for votes on the ceasefire resolution. 1 against. Who? Yeah, United States. UK abstained. Why? Why'd you abstain? 13 nations were for it. But because the United States is a permanent member, resolution fails. Keep the bombing, keep the killing of children, keep the destruction of the entire Gaza Strip, the infrastructure, everything. Just blow it to bits. That's what we like. But no other nation is giving the Palestinians as much as the United States. Well, that's true in terms of military aid to Israel, dropping bombs on Gaza.
Abstenciones.
Abstentions.
El resultado de la votación.
The result of the vote is as follows. 13 votes in favour, 1 against, 1 abstention.
El proyecto de...
The draft resolution has not been approved due to the veto of a permanent member of the Security Council.
Did you even hear that? Could you even hear that? Because I have to play these videos at some level that I can hear. But I'm noticing that they come out so friggin' loud when it finally posts. So, and even during the live stream, it's probably loud for you, but it's so low for me. So yeah, USA, USA, USA. We sure know how to bring destruction. We sure know. So. Sorry. And he does it with a smirk on his face. So that migrant border, wow. Over 100 bottles of Mexican Xanax hidden in chip bags seized at checkpoint. There's so many drugs going through the border. So, one person arrested for attempting to smuggle over 100 bottles of non-prescribed Xanax at a checkpoint. Get them. Get those drug smugglers. It was probably just, an individual resident who needs Xanax. Gas theft increasing as Mexico has banned U.S. fuel imports. Did you know this? I didn't until today. Since late October, Mexico has not allowed most U.S. gasoline to be imported south of the border. Hey, what about that trades agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico? It's happening as drug cartels in Mexico are increasingly stealing fuel and gasoline there. And it comes after cartel gunmen forced gas tanker trucks to dump their loads in the border town of Matamoros, south of Brownsville, Texas. Wow. Violates the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement on exports and imports. It's a grave concern about this situation in Mexico regarding rising fuel thefts and a current embargo on many U.S. fuel imports placed by the Mexican government. This is an unprovoked attack. Oh my God. Maybe we'll go to war with Mexico. The cartels and the Mexican government, they're like this. Buddy, buddy. Oh, yeah. Same with the U.S. government. Texas lawmakers want less red tape for proposed border crossings. So, this is about bringing more bridges in Brownsville, Laredo, Eagle Pass. They want to build new international bridges. So they want more ports of entry. They want more ports of entry. Do you see what's happening with the ports of entry? But do you see the sign? World Trade Bridge. Oh, that new world order. It's only cementing itself every single day. We are no longer living in sovereign nations. And this was really interesting. So Katie Hobbs, who, as far as I'm concerned, is a freak of nature, who stole the election in Arizona for governor. And having spoken to some Arizonians, they all said they feel Kerry Lake won. They all agree that it was stolen. Katie Hobbs. Okay. She's a scary specimen of something. Some subhuman quality. So she goes down to the border. And what did they do? They cleaned up all of those migrants that I have been including in my live streams night after night after night. The thousands of migrants. They were all cleaned up for Katie Hobbs' visit. Really. 10 minutes after she's gone, here they come.
Coming through. On the ground. A lot of them. Means there was a cut in the wall. Democrat governor of Arizona, Katie Hobbs, just left. Literally minutes ago. And this is literally right after Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs just left. Literally port of entry. Katie Hobbs just left probably 10-15 minutes ago. She took off at a helo about a quarter mile from here. We got the lift off, but this was not happening when she was here. There's a cut in the wall, obviously. I've been filming this for 7 weeks. Massive lines coming through. There is CBP here, and it looks like 1 or 2 Border Patrol kind of facilitating this because this port of entry is closed.
Wow, that's kind of like President Z visiting San Francisco. Got to clean it all up, get rid of all of the homeless, and, make it sparkly on the streets. That's what we do. Everything is just a pretense. Everything is just a lie. Yeah. Well, guess what? Feds to drop shipping container border wall lawsuit after $2.1 million payment from Arizona taxpayers. And that's Katie Hobbs. Frightening. Okay. A final payment of $2.1 million from the state to the U.S. Forest Service, even after Hobbs dismantled the barrier and put the containers up for sale. So it was the former governor, Doug Ducey, Republican, who erected it was essentially a wall of shipping containers to prevent migrants from coming in. So the federal government, I guess, filed the lawsuit, but now is dropping the lawsuit because Arizona taxpayers will pay another $2.1 million to the Forest Service. Really? That payment will fully remediate the environmental damage allegedly wrought by the shipping container wall. How much damage? Another 2.1. So you can assume that it was 4.2 million that this woman took from Arizona taxpayers to pay the U.S. Forest Service. 4.2 million for shipping container damage. Where'd that money go? Could a couple of million go into her pocket? And a whole lot of people are posting old videos and not dating them. So Wall Street Silver post, Australian police have announced counter-terrorism teams will be monitoring anti-vax conspiracy theorists. And I have a vague memory of hearing this woman say this, but this is still important and still going on. Look at what's happening in New Zealand with the whistleblowers. Okay, and you think when they keep saying conspiracy theorists, coming after the conspiracy theorists, don't take that lightly. Don't take it lightly. They're coming after all of us. That anyone that they believe to be anti-government, anti-police, conspiracy theorists. Those who are disseminating the misinformation and disinformation, which actually is this woman and government officials. But hey, let's just flip it around and get innocent people to be enslaved by them. And I mean enslaved, like jailed.
We've got other specialist teams involved, like our COVID online team. We do investigate and monitor people who demonstrate and we know show concerning behaviour. If there's anybody out there that knows of someone that might be showing concerning behaviour around, conspiracy theories, anti-government, anti-police, conspiracy theories around COVID-19 vaccination, as what we're seeing with the Train family, we'd want to know about. We want to know about that. And you can either contact police directly or go through Crime Stoppers. But we are certainly not classing it as a domestic terror event. At this point, there's nothing really to indicate that. What we can see is sentiment displayed by the three individuals, the three Train family members, that appears anti-government, anti-police, conspiracy theorist type things. In all of the social media postings, we'll be looking at who are the other people posting material, who are the people that own those sites, where are they located, and then we'll go inspect them. We've got other specialist teams involved, like our COVID online team. We do investigate and monitor people who demonstrate and we know show concerning behaviour. If there's anybody...
All right, the noise in the background is my coffee pot, but wow, yeah. All right. See, these are the people who should be jailed for treason. But who am I? I'm just nothing. No one and nothing. All right. Am I ready to switch gears? Not completely. Let's listen to Glenn Greenwald. I was listening to him, and I relate to a lot of what he is saying here. And he's talking about, the subscribers. He's talking about losing them when you dare to say something that goes against the opinion of an awful lot of subscribers. And when I think about, I had a whole lot of Christians unsubscribe, whole lot of Trump supporters unsubscribe. And it's remarkable that, and I was really getting how a whole lot of subscribers who claim to be awake, which is a misnomer, it's an awakening, and saying awake means you're awake to everything. No one is. And frankly, the most important awakeness that you need to have is about yourself, right? And somebody in here or underneath the video in a comment called me a truther. I am not a truther. I do not wear any of those labels. And frankly, I find, claiming that somebody's a truther is, it smacks of an immaturity. It smacks of It's, for me, I hear it and I think, this is so stupid. You know, but then when you speak a truth that they don't want to hear, suddenly you're no longer a truther. that's the point. But subscribers awake, you know, in this community, I got that with the Trump business. When I started posting, and I had a playlist, and I can't tell you how many, but numerous videos on Trump about what he says, but what he does. And there's a big divide. And boy, just like the awake crowd screaming about Democrats who don't use their brains, can't see this, can't see that, and don't want to know the truth, then Trump comes into play. And so many jumped on that bandwagon and did not want to hear the truth at all about Trump. So, we need to take a look at ourselves. And so listen, you know, and I certainly am not equating myself with Glenn Greenwald, but I understand everything that he's saying, and I have felt the pinch.
And obviously, I've been around for long enough to understand my audience. Of course, a non-trivial part of my audience are now MAGA supporters or right-wing populists. Not nearly as big as people think, but still a substantial chunk who liked my views on Russiagate and my opposition to the war in Ukraine, and especially my opposition to censorship and big tech censorship and all of that. And just my general view that Trump isn't some unique Hitler figure, but just a very kind of more result of our political pathologies as opposed to the author of them. And obviously, I knew at the start of this war, A, I was going to have to weigh in, and B, I've been a longtime Israel critic. And of course, I did not support this Israel bombing of Gaza. And I knew this was going to infuriate a lot of my audience who never knew that about me before. Because like I said, Israel-Palestine really hasn't been discussed. I mean, I've mentioned it, but people's emotions weren't high. So people didn't really notice that I was saying these things. And the minute you start, honestly, I would rather lose 90% of my audience and 90% of my subscribers than come home and put my head on my pillow at night and know that I avoided saying something I really believe, or worse, disguised or lied about my views to placate or please my audience. Once you start doing that, just stop doing the work. You've become a slave to your audience. You're not doing anything interesting or independent or worthwhile at all. You're just feeding people what they want to hear. But it's not easy. You know, independent journalism does require, by its nature, you don't have a large corporation paying you. You need subscribers, you need advertisers, which only come with larger audiences. We lost, I think, 15 to 20% of our podcast audience, around 10% of our paid subscribers canceled. Those are not small numbers.
No,
but
you need
really
loyalty amongst your audience too, because you don't reach as big an audience as, you know, Fox News or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. Your goal is, you know, the fact that you have a loyal, intense following, and that's how you make your impact. And when you break that, it's hard to get back. But honestly, the thing that I really do believe is that even though you will lose people the minute you start telling them things they don't want to hear on an issue they really care about, in the long run, people respect that more. And the audience that you're going to end up building over time is one that's going to know that they don't come expecting to always hear what they want to hear, but they come expecting that you're going to give your most honest assessment and respect your audience, to give those arguments, to treat those disagreements with respect. We put a lot of Israel supporters on the air. I've, addressed their arguments as much as I can in the most respectful way I can. But at the end of the day, that's the audience you want. You don't want to be a slave to your audience. You want to have an audience that wants to be challenged. That's a much higher quality audience.
Yeah, and to me, as an audience member, I like shows where I don't know exactly what the host is going to say until they say it. That's why I like your show, Jimmy Dore's show. We have cultivated a viewpoint diverse audience here that we are quite proud of. To me, as an audience member, that just makes the show more interesting. But I do have one,
and it makes your work more interesting.
Of course,
because you're speaking to a wide variety of people, which means that you do have the ability to, if some person who's on the left, who's a left-wing pundit, who has only spoken to people on the left, who no one on the right knows, who no one on the right cares about, who no one is sitting there every day bashing Israel, it's making no impact whatsoever. But if you've made inroads with conservatives, Republicans, conservative media, and you're going to be heard on this, and they may not all agree with you, but it's going to make much more of an impact, and you want that in your audience. You don't want to just cultivate an audience filled with like-minded people.
So you can guarantee that I'm not going to be saying things that I don't believe just to go along to get along. I think a lot of you know that. And I will admit that, and a lot of it is the stress that I'm under, the circumstances that I've been under for years. But I wish that I had the kind of emotional control that the Glenn Greenwalds have. And I don't, and after doing this for 13 years and finding myself in the circumstance that I'm in, it's very hard to see so much immaturity and so much of the, well, let's just say people will leave a comment and I will respond to it. And a whole lot of people don't like my tone when I'm responding. Well, I wish I could give it in a candy-coated way that could be sweet for everybody. But I don't have that personality. So, anyway. But when he's talking about challenging, he wants, subscribers that he can speak in a way and that he's challenging them to consider a different viewpoint, to critically think about certain things, to consider their own viewpoint, that might not be quite right. And so I'm going to play a video that I have said a whole lot. The Academy of Ideas, which, I'm on Never Lose Truth 5. Subscribe. Academy of Ideas. You want to be challenged? You probably will be able to be challenged with every video that is posted on this channel. And I've said this numerous times. I think it's the best channel on YouTube. Academy of Ideas. So, he posted this a month ago. The Psychology of Malignant Narcissists, People of the Lie. And as I play it and as you listen, think about your own behavior. Because the malignant narcissist is so pathological, but we all have traits of narcissism. We've all scapegoated somebody in our lives. We've all lied. We've all had those behaviors at one point. Maybe some of you have them regularly. But a lot of the frustration I have in the 13 years, because I have said this in videos, I said, stop looking at all of the pathological liars that we have in government, in mainstream media. Think about all of the liars in your own community. Clean that up. Clean your own self up. That's who you can reach. You can't reach those in Washington, D.C. And as you get more and more honest in your own life, you will for sure hear all of the lies coming out of those in your community, in your family, in your friends. And boy, this country, people of the lie. Okay? And it's actually pretty hard not to lie in our country, because The majority live this pretense, and they bullshit all over the place. And people accept the bullshit, and they want the bullshit. It's not just that they want the lies about, Israel or the Gaza Strip or Iraq, Ukraine, climate change, Agenda 2030. They want the lies from the people that are closest to them. And that is helping to create a darker and darker nightmare. And what is the foundation of a healthy society? Trust. It's gone. When I talk to people, when I read comments, when I say, trust is gone, everybody agrees with me. I read the comments of so many people. They can't trust anyone. That's a very sick society. And if we can't manifest something differently in the direction of good real fast, we're all weighted down with this sickness. So, as you listen, think about your own behavior. Think about behaviors of those closest to you. And I'm not saying that everybody is a pathological malignant narcissist. Malignant narcissism is the evil narcissism. That's the really dangerous narcissism. I'm not talking about people taking selfies and posting it on Facebook or, we're not talking about that. And everyone who has experienced narcissism, do not think that your experience is the same as everybody else's. I will tell you that there are narcissists who are pathological but not malignant. And then you have the malignant narcissist. And they're very different. Very different in terms of their behaviors and in terms of their destructive power that never lets up. Okay, so, and if something, you hear and you're relating to something you hear and you go, ugh, I've done that. You might have done it once or twice. Okay, but you got to face that and then try to understand why you behaved in such a way so that you don't do it again. So, here we go. Thank you, Academy of Ideas, for posting what is essential in terms of our own development, our own critical thinking, and how to manifest a better world.
Evil is not committed by people who feel uncertain about their righteousness, who question their own motives, who worry about betraying themselves. The evil in this world is committed by the spiritual fat cats, by the Pharisees of our own day, the self-righteous who think they are without sin because they are unwilling to suffer the discomfort of significant self-examination. Most politicians proclaim themselves to be exemplars of virtue, but many of them compulsively lie, engage in corruption, censor and demonize those who disagree with them, and enact policies that destroy society. Are such politicians aware of their hypocrisy? Do they truly believe in the morally righteous self-image they try to portray? In this video, drawing from the insights of the American psychiatrist M. Scott Peck, we explore the psychology of malignant narcissism in order to better understand the evil that has infected modern politics. M. Scott Peck defines evil as that force, residing either inside or outside of human beings, that seeks to kill life or liveliness, or as he continues, evil is live spelt backward. Evil is in opposition to life. Specifically, it has to do with unnecessary killing that is not required for biological survival. Evil is also that which kills spirit. There are various essential attributes of life, particularly human life, such as sentience, mobility, awareness, growth, autonomy, will. it is possible to kill or attempt to kill one of these attributes without actually destroying the body. All of us are capable of committing evil acts, for as Alexander Solzhenitsyn noted, the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. Nonetheless, two types of people are particularly prone to evil actions: psychopaths and malignant narcissists. The psychopath's potential for evil is well known, but it is the malignant narcissists who may be responsible for more of the world's evil, as they outnumber the psychopaths. And as Peck writes in his book, The People of the Lie, it would be quite appropriate to classify evil people as constituting a specific variant of the narcissistic personality disorder. Psychiatrists have begun to pay increasing attention to the phenomenon of narcissism, but our understanding of the subject is still in its infancy. The central characteristic of narcissism is an inflated sense of self. Narcissists are overconfident and admire themselves to a degree that is not warranted by the reality of who they are or what they have accomplished. The narcissist's infatuation with a grandiose self-image leads to self-absorption, reducing their capacity to empathize with the feelings and experiences of other people. Narcissism exists on a continuum. Some of the milder forms of narcissism, such as identifying with an idealized self-image one creates on social media, are unhealthy but relatively benign. At the extreme end of the spectrum lies the pathology of malignant narcissism, in which one identifies with an illusory self-image of moral purity, or as Peck explains, utterly dedicated to preserving their self-image of perfection, malignant narcissists are unceasingly engaged in the effort to maintain the appearance of moral purity. While they seem to lack any motivation to be good, they intensely desire to appear good. Their goodness is all on a level of pretense. It is, in effect, a lie. This is why they are the people of the lie. Malignant narcissism is a defensive phenomenon that is rooted in a deep fear of being inferior or inadequate, particularly in matters of morality. Due to childhood trauma, growing up with hypercritical or narcissistic parents, or for other reasons of upbringing, socialization, or genetics, the malignant narcissist cannot acknowledge that, like everyone else, they make mistakes, behave immorally, and possess a potential for evil that is rooted in human nature. Or as Peck writes, what is the cause of this arrogant self-image of perfection, this particularly malignant type of narcissism? Basically, it is fear. Malignant narcissists are continually frightened that they will come face to face with their own evil. This terror is so chronic, so interwoven into the fabric of their being, that they may not even feel it as such, and if they could, their omnipresent narcissism will prohibit them from ever acknowledging it. When psychologically healthy people commit an immoral or evil act, they acknowledge their wrongdoing, feel guilt and remorse, and attempt to make amends by returning to the side of the good. Most of us, in other words, have a functioning conscience which places moral constraints on our behavior. The conscience of the malignant narcissist, in contrast, is forced into a state of dormancy by continual acts of self-deception. As the malignant narcissist's identity is anchored in a grandiose self-image of moral goodness, when he morally falters, he resorts to rationalizations, confabulations, and other defense mechanisms to maintain a feeling of moral righteousness, thus bypassing the conscience and escaping feelings of guilt. Because the malignant narcissist silences his conscience with ongoing self-deceptions, he can repeatedly lie and behave in ways that oppose life, yet still believe that he is on the side of good, or as Peck explains further, it is not their sins, per se, that characterize malignant narcissists. Rather, it is the subtlety and persistence and consistency of their sins. This is because the central defect of malignant narcissists is not the sin, but the refusal to acknowledge it. Rather than blissfully lacking a sense of morality, like the psychopath, malignant narcissists are continually engaged in sweeping the evidence of their evil under the rug of their own consciousness. It is out of their failure to put themselves on trial that their evil arises. One of the main self-deceptive mechanisms which the malignant narcissist uses to avoid awareness of his morally imperfect self is, paradoxically, the very mechanism that leads him to commit some of his most evil acts. This mechanism is scapegoating, which, as Peck notes, works through a mechanism psychiatrists call projection. The malignant narcissist unconsciously externalizes the emotions and motivations he cannot accept in himself, attributing them to other people, and he then blames these targets for what in reality are his own moral failings and wrongdoings. A predominant characteristic of the behavior of malignant narcissists is scapegoating, explains Peck. Because in their hearts they consider themselves above reproach, they must lash out at anyone who does reproach them. Since they must deny their own badness, they must perceive others as bad. They never think of themselves as evil. On the other hand, they consequently see much evil in others. Narcissistic scapegoating is on full display in the political world. Many politicians today are so desperate to appear morally righteous that they categorically refuse to consider the possibility that their policies, mandates, and social reforms are the primary drivers of much that is wrong with society. When presented with evidence of their catastrophic failures, or when other people challenge their morally flawless self-image, political malignant narcissists double down on their policies and heap the blame for society's problems upon their favored scapegoats, be it other nations, political opponents, or individuals who merely happen to hold differing political views. Or as Peck explains, strangely enough, malignant narcissists are often destructive because they are attempting to destroy evil. The problem is that they misplace the locus of the evil. Instead of destroying others, they should be destroying the sickness within themselves. As life often threatens their self-image of perfection, malignant narcissists are often busily engaged in hating and destroying that life, usually in the name of righteousness. They sacrifice others to preserve their self-image of perfection. They create for those under their dominion a miniature sick society. In observing the sick state of society, we may be tempted to impose the diagnosis of malignant narcissism on any politician we disapprove of. But in so doing, we run the risk not only of a misdiagnosis, but worse, of mimicking the malignant narcissist's scapegoating behavior. Or as Peck reflects, indeed, might I not be guilty of evil myself by so labeling others who disagree with my opinions? Might I not be misusing the concept of evil by facilely applying it to any and all who oppose my judgment? To avoid misdiagnosing and scapegoating others, we need to become more conscious of our dark side. For the more aware we are of our own moral failures and potential for evil, the less likely we are to project our dark side onto others. Or as Jung writes, many projections can ultimately be integrated back into the individual once he recognizes their subjective origin. But by facing up to our dark side, we do more than withdraw our projections. We also develop a sixth sense to detect the darkness which lurks behind the malignant narcissist's morally pure mask. For as the psychologist Marie-Louise von Franz observed, if one knows about the evil possibilities within oneself, then one develops a kind of second sight, or capacity for getting a whiff of the same thing in other people. To go down into the depths of one's own evil enables one usually to develop the instinctual recognition of corresponding elements in other people. With a heightened capacity to detect evil, we can help others overcome their naivety regarding the reality of human evil. For the reason malignant narcissists are able to gain popular support and persist in positions of political power is because most people refuse to fathom the fact that someone who tries so hard to appear good can in reality be morally corrupt. Most people, in other words, do not recognize that evil has a tendency to cloak itself in the good. Or as the psychologist Erich Fromm observed, the main fallacy which prevents people from recognizing potential Hitlers before they have shown their true faces lies in the belief that a thoroughly destructive and evil man must be a devil and look his part, that he must bear the sign of Cain so visibly that everyone can recognize his destructiveness from afar. Such devils exist, but they are rare. Much more often, the intensely destructive person will show a front of kindliness. He will speak of his ideals and good intentions. Hence, as long as one believes that the evil man wears horns, one will not discover an evil man. As more of us become aware of the political evil that is dividing and destroying society, we should try, as much as possible, not to let anger and hatred sully our attempts to be a force of good. Malignant narcissists are easy to hate, but harboring hatred only nourishes their malevolence and makes us easy targets of scapegoating. Hatred also harms us through the stress it generates in the mind and body. Rather than stewing in hatred, we should focus our energies on spreading the truth, as truth is one of the greatest weapons against evil, hence why Satan is often referred to as the father of lies. We should call out the hypocrisy of the political malignant narcissists, expose their lies, mock their overweening moral pride, and watch on as the truth renders their behavior increasingly desperate, erratic, and eventually self-destructive. Pride goeth before the fall, or as M. Scott Peck concludes, the evil hate the light of goodness that shows them up, the light of scrutiny that exposes them, the light of truth that penetrates their deception. Charlatans in the mainstream media, the education system, politics, and the entertainment industry are using the power of ideas to create obedient, misinformed, and confused individuals who are easily herded into the chains of totalitarianism. The goal of Academy of Ideas is to spread ideas that will help us become wise enough to see the problems that afflict the modern world and brave enough to do something about it. By becoming a supporting member, you assist us in this mission and gain access to over 80 additional videos exclusive to our members, with more added each month. Visit.
So, how many listened carefully? How many got wind of, wow, I might have some of these behaviors as well? I don't know. But it's important to look in the mirror. So I want to read some more of... Did I put the link into the video? I don't think I did. I'm going to. But because we have been a people who have just gone along to get along, accepting all of the lies, and not having the courage to hold even our own family members accountable, our friends accountable. That's what got us an awful lot of narcissists that are all over now. The malignant narcissists are the truly scary ones, because they don't stop at anything to kill off what might expose them. I know from personal experience. So here are some more quotes of Scott Peck's People of the Lie, and if you have not read this book, I highly recommend it. And if you can read off screens People of the Lie, you'll be able to find it for free to read. And I also think there's audio versions on YouTube. But these are excerpts from People of the Lie. And I will also say that Scott Peck became a Christian later on in his life, and he took it very seriously. And he wrote this book in the hopes that others would take their religious practice seriously. So the central defect of the evil is not the sin, but the refusal to acknowledge it. So, when you refuse to acknowledge a sin that you have committed, you've gossiped about somebody, you've lied about somebody, you've lied about your own self, and you refuse to acknowledge it, you'll continue that behavior, and you are then putting yourself on the road of evil. You know, think of two roads, good, evil. The more you practice those sins, Isn't that why Jesus said, I will forgive you of your sins, but sin no more? It's not okay to say in response, because this is the response I get from an awful lot throughout the years. Everyone's a sinner. Boom. Okay. That person's not going to change. They don't want to change. So, it is important to acknowledge all that we have done that is wrong. More often than not, these people will be looked at as solid citizens. Oh, because of their great airs and pretense. How can that be? How can they be evil and not designated as criminals? The key word is designated. They are criminals in that they commit crimes against life and liveliness. They do not want to see a liveliness in people. They like to see people suffering. They like to see depression. They like to see, they sure like to see their own destruction that they have manifested in others. So evil deeds do not make an evil person. Otherwise, we would all be evil. If evil people cannot be defined by the illegality of their deeds or the magnitude of their sins, then how are we to define them? The answer is by the consistency of their sins. While usually subtle, their destructiveness is remarkably consistent. This is because those who have crossed over the line are characterized by their absolute refusal to tolerate the sense of their own sinfulness. And that is an absolute must if one wants to grow up and mature. But it's a necessity if you're on the spiritual path and you're in the process of growing spiritually. A whole lot of people, the self-deception is the most dangerous and elusive deception that we have got going. So a whole lot of people want to focus on the truth and call themselves truthers, but they never look at their own truth. They're deceiving themselves because the most important truth is your own truth. The most important truth is that truth that you acknowledge the evil and the good within yourself, doing that shadow work, the darkness within inside. That's hard and painful and could be, depending on the person's past, it could be really hard to look at, but it's absolutely necessary if that person wants to grow spiritually. It doesn't matter, you're religious. Well, if you're religious, then you're taking a spiritual walk. Well, a whole lot don't take that walk. They just claim to be religious, and they'll study the Bible or whatever, book they've got going for their religion. But they won't practice it, and they won't look inside to see their own truth. And they will absolutely avoid all of those very obvious things in their book, like the Bible. Lying is an abomination. Lying is an abomination. Word of God, right? Well, what's going on? Jesus, I'll forgive you of your sins, but sin no more. What's going on? So, no, I do not hate Christians. the hypocrisy, especially at a time when so many people are suffering. And I see the self-centeredness in the Christian. Don't talk to me. Could care less what you say. Clean up your own stuff. Walk. Walk. You might have a different shoe size, but put on those sandals that Jesus wore and do your absolute best to do what Jesus would do. Outside of that, you're just putting a label on your forehead to make yourself feel good. So the evil of this world is committed by the spiritual fat cats, by the Pharisees of our own day, the self-righteous, who think they are without sin because they are unwilling to suffer the discomfort of significant self-examination. But when I have, brought this up, a whole lot of Christians will say, we're all sinners. As if that's just fait accompli, and that's what we do. And they seriously misinterpret Jesus' walk and what Jesus said about sinning, so they can continue sinning, and they don't have to look. Now, obviously, it's not just Christians, it's everybody. One of the reasons why I do focus on Christians is because of the huge majority of the population that are Christians, and things could have been so much different if a whole lot of them were not hypocrites. Because they are unwilling to suffer the discomfort of significant self-examination. Since they must deny their own badness, they must perceive others as bad. Classic projection. And that doesn't only come with, malignant narcissists or pathological narcissists. That's what ordinary people do in our, fabulous society, which is oh, Claire. No one dare tell Carol she needs a lot of work. Look at how no one is stating what's clear here. Carol is very negative. Hard to believe she's giving advice like this. Then the next one is great show. Okay. Wow. Just ordinary people, we've all projected. Now, I will say I had the narcissistic tendency I had a lot of you don't grow up in a malignant, narcissistic, familial unit and come out healthy. So I had to do an awful lot of work to rid myself of a lot of those tendencies. But, we grow up in a society that is very sick. It just is. It's the well-adjusted to a deeply disturbed society. It means that an awful lot of people are not well-adjusted at all. But if that's you're being indoctrinated in this, you're inculcated in societal norms that are sick, you're going to be sick. And a whole lot of us are absolutely, coming from different backgrounds, and some are sicker than others, for sure. But we all have it. So when you're projecting your own stuff like Claire, who just projected onto me, you have to You have to rid yourself of that, in order to be an individual, and of course we need them in the aggregate, but to manifest a better society, for sure. And that's our individual obligation to shoring up humanity. So they deny their own badness. They must perceive others as bad. They project their own evil onto the world. The evil attacks others instead of facing their own failures. Spiritual growth requires the acknowledgement of one's own need to grow. If you think that you don't need to grow, you're not on a spiritual road. You might put, something on your forehead. I'm a Christian, I'm a Jew, I'm a Muslim, but if you are someone who thinks you're done and now just waiting for the end, you're not even, you haven't even passed go. If we cannot make that acknowledgement, we have no option except to attempt to eradicate the evidence of our imperfection. The malignant narcissists are utterly dedicated to preserving their self-image of perfection, moral purity. They're acutely sensitive to social norms and what others might think of them. And they are incredible actors and actresses and can fool an awful lot of people as they're destroying a whole lot of people. The words image, appearance, outwardly are crucial to understanding the morality of the evil. While they lack any motivation to be good, they intensely desire to appear good. So that's why it's also very, very important to shatter the pretense that we live in life. You have to shatter that pretense in order to get real, authentic, genuine. While they lack any motivation to be good, they intensely desire to appear good. Their goodness is all on a level of pretense. It is, in effect, a lie. Actually, the lie is designed not so much to deceive others as to deceive themselves. We lie only when we are attempting to cover up something we know to be illicit. At one and the same time, the evil are aware of their evil and desperately trying to avoid the awareness. We become evil by attempting to hide from ourselves. Have you ever met anyone with a severe lack of self-awareness? I have. Been very, very close to someone who lacked self-awareness, and it was absolutely amazing because from one day to the next, they could say something one day and then the next day they literally say the opposite, and they don't even get that not 24 hours before they were maintaining this and now they're maintaining that, and they're very confusing people. That's why the self-awareness is so important. It often happens then that the evil may be recognized by its very disguise. Because they are such experts at disguise, it is seldom possible to pinpoint the maliciousness of the evil. The disguise is usually impenetrable. They are not pain avoiders or lazy people in general. To the contrary, they are likely to exert themselves more than most in their continuing effort to obtain and maintain an image of respectability. They may willingly, even eagerly, undergo great hardships in their search for status. Ego-driven. Only one particular pain they cannot tolerate, the pain of their own conscience, the pain of realization of their own sinfulness and imperfection. The evil are the last people to ever go to a psychotherapist and to deal with their own deficiencies, unless they have a motive in mind, and they will go see a psychotherapist to talk about others in their life and to create a whole drama manipulation to get others to be pointing the finger at someone else. They are men and women of obviously strong will, determined to have their own way. There is a remarkable power in the manner in which they attempt to control others. It is not without reason that the serpent is renowned for his subtlety. We therefore cannot pass judgment on a person for a single act. Instead, judgment must be made on the basis of a whole pattern of acts as well as their manner and style. We are accustomed to feel pity and sympathy for those who are ill, but the emotions that the evil invoke in us are anger and disgust, if not actual hate. It is the unwillingness to suffer emotional pain that usually lies at the very root of emotional illness. Those who fully experience depression, doubt, confusion, and despair may be infinitely more healthy than those who are generally certain, complacent, and self-satisfied. So think of the psychic energy required for the continued maintenance of the pretense so characteristic of the evil. They perhaps direct at least as much energy into their devious rationalizations and destructive compensations as the healthies do into loving behavior. Why? What possesses them, drives them? Basically, it is fear. They are terrified that the pretense will break down and they will be exposed to the world and to themselves. They are continually frightened that they will come face to face with their own evil. And I know from personal experience that fear, they can literally kill their own, destroy their own, without a second thought. The fear, unfortunately, is subconscious. So, there's no getting a malignant narcissist, except maybe Sam Valkin, who will admit that they're a narcissist. They're so driven with ego and their destructiveness that they will literally take out people who dare to try to expose them in one way or another. Evil people would be distinguished by these traits: consistent, destructive, scapegoating behavior, which may often be quite subtle; excessive, albeit usually covert, intolerance to criticism and other forms of narcissistic injury; pronounced concern with a public image and self-image of respectability, contributing to a stability of lifestyle, but also to pretentiousness and denial of hateful feelings or vengeful motives, and an intellectual deviousness with an increased likelihood of a mild schizophrenic-like disturbance of thinking at times of stress. And ain't that true? But there is another vital reason to correctly name evil: the healing of its victims. The fact of the matter is that evil is one of the most difficult things to cope with. And their victims need justice. They also need to be believed. And unfortunately, a whole lot don't get that justice. A whole lot don't get people believing them. So how are we to take Christ's admonition to judge not lest you be judged and still label someone as evil? If you see something wrong, don't you try to correct it? Was Hitler okay? Jim Jones okay? Medical experiments on Jews okay? There is such a thing as an excess of sympathy, excess of tolerance, excess of permissiveness. The fact of the matter is that we cannot lead decent lives without making judgments, general and moral judgments in particular. Christ did not enjoin us to refrain from ever judging. What Jesus went on to say is that we should judge ourselves before we judge others, not that we should judge at all. We are to purify ourselves before judging others. But this is where the evil fail. It is the self-criticism they avoid. So, I hope that gave food for thought. It is absolutely necessary that if you think you're a spiritual being, that you're acknowledging things that you've done wrong in the past, not berate yourself, but to understand yourself, to understand your behavior, and to understand the whys of your behavior so that you can sin no more. That is the only possible way that we can manifest any goodness in this world. Well, thank you, awakened sleeper. It is a great frustration that I've had to see how many people will just absolutely refuse. And yeah, Scott Peck, if you do this work, if you begin to delve into your own darkness, understand it, stop your scapegoating projections, you begin to see the darkness come out in others. And that's when you begin to see how really screwed up our society is. That's when you begin to understand the ripple effect of the individual's behavior in terms of the nightmare that we're living. That ripple effect, people need to be aware of it. It is for sure critical Now, so, live honestly and speak honestly, and help those in need. Try to better somebody's circumstance. Do all that you can. You know, we for sure are a materialistic society, and you're not going to be taking anything material with you when you die. And I'm not saying give it all away. Not at all. But everybody has things to share. Everybody. For those who don't have. And yeah. Little one. My little one. You've been rolling in the road, the dirt road again. So on that note, I'm just going to say good night and good luck. Stay safe. Ciao, guys. Thanks for coming, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Ciao, guys.